Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the feature race at Del Mar on Thursday. We're going a mile and a half for the Grade 3 Cougar, the second handicap. Let's take a look at the field for race number 7. It's an interesting group, Mike. Only a field of 6 in this race. Salesman is the 8-5 morning line favorite over Reincarnate, trained by Baffert. Salesman really likes extra distance, winning the Grade 2 Thoroughbred Aftercare, going 13 furlongs in his final start at 3. Maybe the big cap was too short for him.
Maybe. I mean, listen, maybe that's the reason he's the morning line favorite, Dan. It just came down to distance because the 3 Reincarnates, clearly the class of the field. We'll see if he can get the mile and a half.
That's really the big question in this race. We'll throw up our Timeform U.S. pace projector. The good news for the 2 favorites in here, Salesman and Reincarnate, is they're both very tactical, and I think we'll set up shop sitting off Midnight Mammoth, who's in very sharp form right now, but is stretching way out in distance.
He's stretching out off the 2 best races of his life. I guess they'll go forward with him and see what happens. You're right, Dan. The 2 favorites, very tactical. They're not going to be far away.
And if this pace somehow gets electric, keep an eye on the 5 Dual Threat. Note the LP flag over his chiclet. That indicates he has the fastest Timeform US late pace figure. Another horse that could be part of the pace is the 1 Calm Sea, who has spent the majority of his career racing on turf. Calm Sea only raced once on dirt in his career. It was his debut, going 6.5 furlongs. He faced a pretty good field. The runner-up just ran 3rd in the Pimlico Special. Talking a little bit more about Calm Sea, Mike, he was able to get to the front last time out and scored a 1.25 miles. Distance isn't an issue. Will he be able to transfer the speed and form the dirt? That's the question.
It's the real question. His last 5 races on the turf have all been 1.25 miles. He's run well in all those races, Dan. Now he's got to go just a little bit longer. He's got to do it on a different surface. I do think he could be forward in here. I mean, listen, he's not my kind of horse. Would I be shocked if he ran well in here? I wouldn't. It's not a super strong field.
Midnight Mammoth, the number 2, has been up and down the class ladder. Graded stakes placed in 2023 in the Californian, was competing for $50,000 2 starts back. Here's his most recent effort at Los Alamitos, a starter allowance going a mile. Midnight Mammoth was able to get to the lead, and he looks strong in the stretch. Now he's got to go another half mile against better horses.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big ask here. I mean, I understand why they would want to stretch him out and maybe try some tougher competition again. Dan, his last 2 races, again, they're the 2 best races of his life. It's very game in here to sort of edge away from this horse at the end and get clear. He's 3-1 on the morning line. It's not a price I would ever take on him, but he's just another horse who maybe he's very well spotted if he can get the distance.
Reincarnate was potentially an early Kentucky Derby candidate for the Connections in 2023 after winning the Sham in gate-to-wire fashion. His best races have come on the lead, and he was able to make the lead in the Gold Cup at Santa Anita last time out. Let's watch that race on May the 27th. He was bumped pretty hard in the early portion of the race in the first furlong, then just sent on through. Set a pressured pace, has the lead in the stretch. His stablemate, Mr. Fisk, is going to come get him. Does it bother you didn't stay the 10 here?
A little bit, not as much in this race, maybe, Dan, because I didn't think he had a perfect trip in here, and his stablemate who runs him over there late is actually in really good form. I was more disappointed with his big cap back in March. That was the race to me where it just seemed like he didn't see out the 1.25 miles, and it really cost him. You have to be concerned about distance with this horse. He's the class of the race, but distance is always a great equalizer on the racetrack. And if he can't get this far, he just can't get this far. It doesn't matter who he's running against.
And there's no doubt that the number 4 Salesman will get this far, winning that 13 furlong stakes race at Santa Anita Breeders' Cup weekend. Doing it on the engine, he only raced once after that. It was in that Hollywood Gold Cup last time out, and he was no match for Reincarnate, but he had to go 1.25 miles off a pretty long layoff at a distance shorter than his best. I'd expect a lot better here.
You could, give him the benefit of the doubt for the last one, maybe. There are enough ways to look at it and think maybe he just needed it off the bench, I guess. Listen, you have to respect this horse. You know he can get this far. He should be forward in this race. And if it just comes down to a stamina test, he probably wins it.
Dual Threat, the number 5, as the fastest Timeform US late pace rating, coming out of a win, going 1 mile and a 16th at Santa Anita in a starter allowance. Let's watch Dual Threat's victory. Got some pace to attack in here. He's going after the leader, turning for home, and he'll grind it down at 1 mile and a 16th. Far and away, his best buyer speed figure of 93. Now, this race is back in the middle of May. He was listed as a vet scratch June 16th. It's taken him over a month to get back in the entries at a longer distance against better horses.
Yeah, all those things working against him. He's a little bit cheap on the way in. Again, he's just like the horse down towards the inside, Midnight Mammoth. That last one, the best race that he's ever run. Dan, we'll see if he can repeat it going much longer. He's probably going to need a little bit of a setup here.
This is the first time past a mile for the number 6 Clooney, a horse that sold for a lot of money as a yearling and never really panned out. He was claimed for $16,000 out of his final start in 2023. Came back cooking in his first race of the year, rallying from well off of the pace, and then he was wired by an odds-on favorite last time out in a first-level allowance. The distance is just a huge question mark.
As is the class. I just don't really see it with this horse unless he, for some reason, he's been dying to go a mile and a half his whole life, and he hasn't gotten to do it yet.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Cougar II handicap on Thursday at Del Mar. Reincarnate is the class of the field. We'll see if the distance gets him. He should be right in the thick of things when the real racing begins.
I'm worried about the distance, I'll be honest, Dan. We'll see. I feel like he has to be favored at post time. He's not the morning line favorite, though. I just kind of preferred him to the 4. I didn't like anybody else.
3-4-2-1 for Mike, 3-2-5-4 for me. It's the grade 3 Cougar II handicap at Del Mar on Thursday. Good luck.